I had to choose a few words to describe the METPRO program, I would say intensive,
exciting,
rewarding,
fast-paced,
emotional,
terrifying,
exhausting,
gratifying,
an opportunity. It's a great opportunity. What attracted me to METPRO was the chance to join an elite company that had shown a commitment to improving itself and wanted to find people who were not only interested in a good job, but a chance to make a difference in the newsroom, for the paper, and for the audience.
There have been times that I have written about issues or written about people that probably wouldn't have made it into the paper otherwise, just because I have an eye that is different.
This is just one way that you can have an ongoing conversation with millions of people at a time towards, making whatever city you're working in a better place to live.
We must have that same kind of diversity in our newsrooms if we are to effectively and successfully understand, report on, analyze, and connect with those communities.
Now that we've talked about trimming, let's talk about longer stories. The same principles that we've been talking about in editing a single story kind of apply when you're talking about these larger packages of stories.
Copy editing is different in that you're the paper's last line of defense. So you have to look at every story with a fresh eye, not just reading it to see what's there, but you're constantly thinking what's missing or what can make this story better.
Does a question come to your mind? I mean, I'll give it away. There should be a question, like you make a note or a mental note, that does she back this up? Does she come back to it? What is it that I'm referring to?
They show you how to do what needs to be done, and then you do it. They don't have time to coddle us, really, because we have deadlines. We have to put the paper out. Catherine, can you get me a shot of David Williams? Thanks, Catherine.
Copy editing is more than just dealing with the words. It's dealing with people. You're working with the reporter and the editors who've assigned the story. You're working with the production people without whom you can't put out the paper. You're sort of in the middle with the vortex of a lot of energy being expended to put out the best paper you can. That's an exciting place to be.
the rush of meeting deadlines, the quest for accuracy and fairness. An incredible challenge, but one that is incredibly gratifying.
We will do a main story on Albright, Cohen, who becomes defense secretary and late goes to the CIA. We will do a 1,200-word look at Albright, who's an interesting woman who came here as a refugee from Czechoslovakia. We'll deal in a minor way with her life on Long Island, but we'll certainly deal with it, and we're looking for archival
by bringing people like me into the newsroom and people who are representative of other ethnic groups, you diversify your pool of ideas. You are enriching your product.
It's not just a one-race world, and our newspapers need to reflect the diversity of the communities we live in. Otherwise, we just have a newspaper that's speaking one voice, and there are many voices out there.
From day one at METPRO, you realize that you might be different from a lot of other people in the newsroom. But you're there to make a difference. It might be subtle, but on any given story, you might have a different perspective than the reporter who wrote it, the editor who first assigned it and then oversaw the story.
You know, read through it and see if there's something that jumps out at it that you may want to cut anyway.
I think it's important for us to be there not only to give truth to negative stereotypes, but also to highlight positive things in different communities. And it's important to have people on the paper who are in touch with these respective communities.
Not only do we need to consider the needs of minority readership, we also need to make sure that the copy that we read accurately portrays what's happening.
We read this copy at the last stage, and sometimes we can really make a major contribution in terms of avoiding a problem that the reporter got into, not through any maliciousness, but rather because, his or her background may not reflect the backgrounds of many of our readers.
Having representation in the newsroom isn't just about having numbers.
Right.
It's about producing a better quality, more accurate paper.
Conversational writing doesn't mean that you have to be chatty. It simply means that you have to deal with people simply and plainly and clearly.
And she's showing them a photo of his decomposed face and asking them to identify this guy. It could be a pencil.
reporters are just everyday people. We're just a little more curious than most people, I think.
If you look at everyone who's come through the METPRO program, you'll find that within their hearts there is a passion about journalism.
How much is the reward for?
It's going to be $25,000 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspects that are responsible for the murder.
Whose case is it?
This is going to be Detective Flamenco's case. It's a case.
One of the most memorable experiences about METPRO for me was my 6-month stint in the Valley edition at the LA Times. In that period, I got to do everything from business reporting to cops reporting to courts. I did a big story about skinhead activity in the Northern Antelope Valley, and that story, when it broke, the LA Hate Crimes Commission took a look at the problem. That to me said that my work had affected some kind of change, that someone had picked up the paper and read something that I had done and said, okay, we've got this information, we need to do something about this.
The phase that was most important was when we finally went out to a newsroom.
The foundation of it is going to be to try to tell as many human stories as we can.
I was able to learn a lot more than I had in any of the other periods because I was finally kind of set free to either try and find my own stories or take stories that they were, helping me to find or giving me leads on and develop them myself and take time to really do them properly.
One of the greatest things about METPRO is just the opportunity to absorb your surroundings. It's only when you're in as active a newsroom setting as the Los Angeles Times and other newspapers that you can get that kind of feeling and learn by osmosis.
This is Angie Chuang from the LA Times. Have him give me a call at... Could you get to me before 4:15? If I'm not there, you can tape me. Yeah, we're on a pretty tight deadline here. The story I just got assigned is about an anti-leaf blower ordinance that will ban the use of leaf blowers in Los Angeles.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Japanese Chamber of Commerce today.
The most valuable time for me in the METPRO program was working on the city desk. It was valuable because the editors were very demanding, and they didn't cut me any slack because I was a METPRO.
From the program, I learned to go beyond just the surface level of explanations of stories given me by various people, whether it was in institutions or even in the public, and delve a little deeper to find out what really was animating people, what was the real scoop behind things, because I think the real story often is hidden many layers below the surface.
I've got a story that's kind of bizarre because it's about voodoo shops, which are really called botanicas.
Botanicas?
Yeah.
There were people with us every day who asked us how we were doing, who looked at our copy and said this could be better and this is how it can be better. So we got every day advice, support, encouragement that I think really propelled us.
A bold request.
Well, but do you think or do they think? Bold is a bold word. In an innovative request.
When you're being edited by an editor who's world class, there's a sort of fear that builds up inside and it drives you to do your work better. If you go someplace else, you understand what world-class work is like and you keep striving for that in your own writing.
Verifications.
Okay, so innovative would work.
Innovative would work.
We'd be telling the truth.
Yeah.
Innovative it is.
Journalism is a sacred thing. I cover a community, a suburb in the north of Hartford, and I'm responsible for that community. When people in that community get up and they pick up their paper, they look to me to see the world. And that's something important that I hold on my shoulders.
When you say it's becoming more mainstream, what exactly do you mean?
It originated in the Caribbean islands, but it's not just Caribbean islanders that are studying Santería anymore. ¿Por qué está aquí?
¿Por qué está aquí? Porque es una representación de un espíritu que me acompaña a mí, en lo personal.
It's not always necessarily writing a story about the Chinese American population or about the Filipino community and what they did in a particular festival, but rather including them as sources in your everyday reporting, whether it's how they feel about a particular homeowners issue, how they might react to a particular study that's out, and just being the experts also that we turn to when we want knowledgeable voices to fill our stories, to give things context.
Okay, and are you going to be talking to the mayor as well? We tend to write a lot of stories about people of color. It's not that they want METPROs to write all the stories about people of color, but we lend a certain sensitivity to it, and we tend to look for those story ideas because we have a background in those issues.
You get branded as a METPRO in the newsroom because you're always known as the kid who came in, you're the minority kid over there. There's also the sense that, yeah, we're METPRO, but we're proud of it. So therefore, METPRO Padilla, that's right. Right on. Órale, Holmes.
He said he spoke to her. What I really got most from METPRO is a sense of really being able to do this.
I've covered everything from earthquakes to fires to floods to being on the desk and seeing what it's like being an editor and being a gatekeeper of stories rather than just simply a reporter of them. So METPRO has really given me the skills that I need to go forward.
I would never have gotten here without METPRO. I mean, I think it shaved about 10 years off my career.
METPRO has allowed me to do what it is that I want to do. I am shaping the opinion of two of our company's newspapers, Greenwich Time and the Stanford Advocate on the East Coast. And I never pictured myself doing that at 28.
They have added to the richness of the diversity in our newsrooms. They have added to the richness of our coverage. And, oh, by the way, they've helped us win Pulitzer Prizes.
I feel more passionate about the business today than I did when I started, and I probably feel more passionate about it every day.
I think METPRO is for people who have a passion about journalism, who want to stay in journalism for the rest of their life, and see their work affect some kind of change in the society around them.
You can't teach people to care, to be passionate about something. They have it or they don't. The tools are what you get from this program. You've got the passion for journalism. You want to make a difference, but don't have the tools. Come to METPRO. We'll give you the tools. It's that simple.